They say clothes make the man, so we made too many clothes. I want to show you how to stop an energy leak you've probably been overlooking, soothe your nervous system, and reclaim your sovereignty all through the physics of what you wear. Throughout this series, we've investigated the idea that existence is a closed-loop system of perfect logic. In a system like that, nothing is wasted, which means your physical form isn't an accident, it's a form of biologic. We've looked at how your coloration interacts with light waves and how your skeleton functions as a piezoelectric array. We combined those to find your personal design. In the beginning, I called these missions, but as the signal became clearer, I realized it's not a task, it's a frequency. It's not what you do, it's the note you are. It's the difference between trying to fit into a group and moving in conscious harmony like a school of fish. Today, we're going to look at what happens when we embrace that self-sovereignty and coherence all the way down to the ground, starting with the clothes on our backs. We have spent decades living in a value vacuum. The old world operated on a predatory logic. It convinced you that you were a blank, unformed, valueless slate so that it could sell you a disposable identity every time it figured out how to squeeze another micro season into the calendar. This is the heartbeat of fast fashion. Fast fashion isn't just a business model. It's a symptom of a disconnected species. It's what happens when millions of people search for a passcode to belong, buying clothes someone else said could buy them acceptance in order to fill a hole that fabric can never touch. But here is the shift. When you identify your permanent code, you become fast fashion proof. This isn't about shaming where you shop or being a victim of a trend. It's about immunity. When you know the math of your bones and the temperature of your light, the vacuum disappears. This is how we heal the planet. We don't do it through guilt, we do it through coherence. When a sovereign self stops buying low-resolution noise, the virus of overproduction loses its host. This brings us to the physical system command. You cannot download a high-definition version of your life if the hard drive is full of low-resolution clutter. I know it feels contradictory to talk about saving the planet and then tell you to clear out your closet, but this is the final decommissioning. We aren't tossing things into a landfill. We are releasing the masks we no longer need to wear. By finding a resonant home for the clothes that don't fit your code, you are participating in high-order distribution. You clear the space once, thoroughly, so that you can step out of the cycle of buy, discard, repeat forever. 2,000 years ago, humans stopped moving with the land and started trying to own it. We traded our natural flow for a set of external rules. We stopped trusting our bodies and started trusting the fences, the trends, the hierarchies, the should-bes. Biologic is about taking those fences down and remembering how to move again. But this does more than disrupt fashion cycles. You are tuning your personal instrument. We've been taught to think of light and sound as separate things, but they are both just waves at different frequencies. When you align your lumina and your chassis, you are stabilizing your hardware. Why does that matter? Because your voice is a wave generator. In physics, the observer effect proves that the act of looking at a wave can collapse it into a particle. It turns maybe into is. But there's a second mechanism, the spoken effect. Sound is mechanical pressure. When you speak, you are physically rearranging the molecules around you. Your power doesn't come from the fabric. You are a sovereign creator, whether you are in a silk scarf or standing in the shower. But when you move through the world, your clothes act as a signal filter. If that filter is dissonant, you are wasting energy just trying to be seen through the static. Aligning your wardrobe is about stopping the energy leak. It makes your hardware so clear that when you play your note, the runway is clear for others to resonate with it. If your clothes are the visual signal, your voice is the acoustic handshake. Most of us humans walk around in vocal drag, cadences we adopt to sound professional, nice, or safe. These aren't you, they are masks. When you use a mask, you are literally fighting your own anatomy. For a long time, I didn't realize I was speaking on tiptoes. I had adopted a mask that felt like a requirement for being allowed in the room. When I finally started to audit that mask, the shift felt dangerous. It felt vulnerable to let my voice land flat-footed in its natural weight. At first, it even sounded masculine to my own ears. But I eventually realized my voice wasn't masculine, it was just grounded. It had weight. And I suspect the inverse is true too. For men who have spent years weighting their voices to sound more authoritative or serious, the return to a sovereign resonance might feel unexpectedly light or bright. It might feel feminine to their ears at first. But that is the trick of the mask. We've been told certain frequencies belong to certain genders, but your biological key signature doesn't care about social categories. It only cares about the truth of your anatomy. Whether your natural note is a deep, resonant thrum or a light, kinetic ping, that is the sound of your freedom. This isn't just a metaphor. It is literal acoustics. Just as we design auditoriums to reflect sound, your body is a resonance chamber. Your voice is shaped by your skeleton. Your chest is your subwoofer. Your facial bone structure acts as your high-frequency tweeters. When you speak, your entire crystalline skeleton vibrates. We've been brainwashed to ignore this because playing society asks us to sound predictable. But your frame has a specific internal volume. If you have the deep vertical frame of a pillar, your body is a natural bass trap. If you have the kinetic frame of a helix, you are a natural high-frequency amplifier. You aren't choosing a tone, you are finally letting your hardware speak. Just like with clothes, we might hear these concepts as a limit we don't want to accept. But think of it this way. There are 12 notes in a chromatic scale, and from those, we get every symphony ever written. Your archetype is your scale. Admitting what instrument you were born with isn't a limitation. It's giving yourself permission to say it with your whole chest. The pillar, static architecture. Your resonance is grounded. It lands like a stone in a pool, steady, certain, and unhurried. The helixes, kinetic velocity. Your resonance is clear. It has a pulse. It moves the air like a bell or a drum. The seasons add textures. Winter, the pure tone. A crystalline resonance, absolute and direct. It is unbuffered, moving with a high contrast clarity that doesn't hide behind breathiness. Autumn, the rich tone, a saturated resonance. It is textured and earthy. It sounds like the grain of wood or the gravel of a deep path. It is grounded, multitonal resonance. Spring, the resonant tone, a clear, bright resonance. It has a high-definition ping or attack. Whether a light melody or a deep bell-like authority, it sounds like the arrival of energy. Summer, the luminous tone, a diffused resonance. It is blended and fluid. It carries a softened edge like a reeded instrument. It doesn't cut through the air, it fills the air with a consistent, smoothed-out presence. But here is the secret. We all have two gears. You have the authority of your pillar and the joy of your helix. Your skeletal frame may be your baseline form, but you contain both polarities. Neither is a lie. They are simply different movements in your symphony. When I am on, I stand in my winter pillar resonance. But when I'm safe, when I'm playing, I can feel my helix. The clear rhythmic ping comes forward. You are free to flow between these rhythms as you meet the world. While your DNA sets your coloration, we all have seasons of life. There will be times you fill a different role to honor the flow of those around you. But when you hold your true frequency solidly, that role doesn't feel like burnout. It feels like a step in a dance so enthralling the effort goes unnoticed. That is how we move as a school of fish. We finally have the collective baseline to set our eyes on joy, love, and peace. That is where we make observer effect magic. As you stabilize your signal, you might notice you need a way to shield your reception, or perhaps you have always felt it. If you have a high-resolution sensory system, you aren't just living, you are constantly translating the environment. Currently, society uses different words to refer to people with high-resolution sensory systems depending on the presentation and the social language of your worldview. It can be called neurodivergent, highly sensitive person, empath, energy sensitive, clairvoyant, seer, or I'm sure there are more I don't personally know. But regardless of terminology, biologically we are electromagnetic beings. Our bodies function as a biological interface. Our hair, like our bones, is a crystalline structure made from keratin, which is also piezoelectric. Our skin contains melanin, a biological semiconductor capable of converting light into electrical energy, and vice versa. In a nutshell, we are constantly receiving and translating the data of our surroundings. For some of us, this high-definition reception can feel like sensory overload. It is an anxiety. It is a high-gain antenna system that hasn't been buffered. This is where the sovereign shield can come in. For millennia, human lineages have intuitively used natural fibers like silk, wool, and linen as head coverings to settle this reception. Some lineages have consciously known and discussed this concept of shielding the crown as a protective concept. Others have just enacted it time and time again. In the Western world, we moved away from this when JFK went hatless to present as more accessible to the public. But being available to all the time, is a recipe for burnout. And while a head covering is a head covering, there is a specific hardware logic to why silk feels like a relief. Silk is made of crystalline proteins called fibroin. Just like quartz, when silk fibers vibrate, they generate tiny electrical charges. Because these structures are so orderly, they allow energy to move through them in predictable ways. So, if you choose to wear silk, you are literally applying a structured biological computer to your system. If that sounds like a stretch, remember that a computer is defined by its function, information processing. In modern technology, we use silicon because its crystalline structure allows us to control the flow of data. In the biologic world, silk does something strikingly similar. At a molecular level, it is composed of highly organized beta sheets. This rigid, repeating geometric lattice is what allows it to function as a semiconductor. When silk is squeezed by sound waves or physical movement, it converts that mechanical noise into organized electrical data. It is, in fact, a biological signal processor. It organizes the chaos of your surroundings before it ever reaches your nerves. I was born with a high-resolution sensory system. When I'm around others, the data intake can be taxing. When I wore a silk headscarf for the first time, I was shocked to find I could finally just be me, not me plus the people next to me. It wasn't that the world went away, it was that my sensors finally had a clear perimeter. On a mechanical level, the light compression stimulates the vagus nerve endings around your temples, telling the brain the world ends here and I am safe inside this circle. On an auditory level, if the silk is over your ears, silk acts as a natural filter. It takes the edge off the sound just enough to provide a hush for my brain without disconnecting me from my kids. Wrapping your crown is essentially creating a Faraday cage for your frequency. Whether you use a silk headband, a scarf, a wrap, or a silk-lined beanie, or a silk baseball cap liner, the goal is the same. Moving from being an open circuit the world can drain to a sovereign self who authors their own experience. You are containing your own voltage. As we wrap up this series, I hope it's clear that it was never actually about the close. It was about the architecture of the all. When you align your interface, you are taking your place in a larger, living geometry. Imagine a society where we stop competing for the same best look because we have realized that coherence is the only standard. A mountain does not envy a river. They simply occupy different coordinates in the same beautiful landscape. When you stop performing a role you weren't built for, you stop being a consumer of identity and you start being a producer of reality. You don't need a lesson on how to live. You need to stand in your own math. The broadcast is clear, the channel is open, and the rest is just the universe singing through you. The symphony is ours to play.